Welcome to our new and latest podcast, Zoom into Success. The whole point of this podcast is a bite-sized podcast, 15 to 30-minute conversations with successful entrepreneurs to everyday people that are just trying to get ahead. So, as in the name, it's on Zoom, and we're going to take you to success with some of the stories that some of our entrepreneurs have been through, as well as some of the challenges that the everyday person is going through. So, over to you. Who have we got on the phone today? Phone?
My name is Darius, otherwise known as Harouni FBA on Instagram and TikTok. Little shameless plug there. I'm an Amazon seller. I've been selling on the platform for about 3 and a bit years now. I'm a multi 6-figure seller, and yeah, I'm just here to share a bit of knowledge and hopefully inspire a few people to take up the journey like I have, because it is a great business model
Yeah.
to be getting into.
Exactly, and thanks for coming on, Darius. You're our first person that is now on this, so well done.
Cheers, mate. Thank
You're
you.
the first person coming on here. So look, we want to give everyone listening a lot of value. So I guess the starting point is a lot of us start a side hustle. Like I've personally done Amazon FBA. We both went through the same mentorship a while ago. What was the
Mhm.
reason that you decided Amazon FBA? Because obviously, presumably, it was alongside a 9 to 5 job. So what was the reason that you started with Amazon?
So with Amazon, ironically, I know I've been selling on the platform for 3 years. I've started selling when I was about 20, and I've had my account open for about 6, 7 years. But for the first four of that, I was doing FBM. For anyone who doesn't know, FBM is fulfilled by merchant. So it's basically you taking the stuff to Royal Mail and shipping it out yourself. So I'd occasionally see something Tesco's, and I'd go on the little Amazon seller app and I'd scan it, and I'd think I was making a load of money, and 9 times out of 10, because I didn't know how to work my profit out and I didn't know what Amazon fee was, I'd probably end up making a loss. But it was just about the process. So for me, I've known about Amazon. I've seen loads of gurus back in the day, early Amazon, talking about how good it is and what the business model was. And FBA was something they were saying, fulfilled by Amazon. Amazon does everything. And so I kind of saw something come across my TikTok. As we said, we've both done the same mentorship back in the day. And I saw one of these guys and I thought, you know what, I'll give this a go. I want to know. I understood the business model, I understood how it worked, but I never understood, how do you get your items from your house to Amazon and they sell it? I didn't understand that crucial element, how to do it. And there was no videos online. It was all up behind a paywall. So I just took the jump and thought, this is something that I think could scale. Amazon is a massive website. There's clearly a lot of scope in it. And once I realized that when I go onto Amazon to buy something, 9 times out of 10, the person selling it is an everyday person like you and me, I thought, goodness me, there's got to be a lot of money in this. Goodness me, because everyone's buying on Amazon.
Yeah,
That's why.
I mean,
Does
I
that
think
make sense?
yeah, no, 100%. I think like there's quite a few points in there that we'll go on to actually, because like some of the stuff that you mentioned is quite interesting. Like obviously you're going into the stores, buying stuff, and sort of FBMing it. I mean, I think that's what most people see on TikTok and Instagram at the moment. It's going into a shop, just picking something up. And I mean, I don't know if you had the same thought as Amazon FBA than I did. Before I went on a mentorship, I was literally about to buy something from Alibaba and I just thought, yeah, you know what? You buy something from China, you whack it on Amazon. That's how it works. Just didn't even
Yeah,
know how
exactly.
about. Obviously, that's more private label, but had no idea about brand registry. Had no idea about ads on Amazon creating listings. I just thought I'd buy this product on Alibaba because I found the exact same product on Amazon. And I tell you what, I was just going to list it on there. What would have happened is I would have spent like all thousands on all the shipping from Alibaba on these 1,000 units, and it was a like a dog paddling pool thing because it was in the
All
summer
right.
when I started, and it was COVID, right? So lots of people were doing it.
Yeah.
I would have jumped on this listing, been automatically kicked off, and then had 1,000 dog pools at my house. So,
Not knowing
like,
what to do with them. Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
exactly. And
But
I think FBM as well. Like, I actually got caught with FBM a couple of times where not fully understanding the obviously you got dangerous goods program, right? But UPS won't come and pick that up, and that was something that you can find out. I couldn't find out online, and I wasn't aware of. So I bought all of this stuff, actually not realizing it was. So I bought a bunch of nail varnish a while ago. I was working with a beauty supplier, not realizing that now, because obviously I don't know why nail varnish would be a dangerous good. I have no idea why. So I bought it, had all of this stuff, and then had to go into Royal, like a little post office, and obviously
Yeah.
you can't put them all in one big box. It had to be four. You can only have four items in the box. So I literally had to go down, had about 40, 50 boxes. This poor
Oh
woman in the
wow.
post office had to go through her lunch break and whack this all off for me. It was interesting. So obviously Amazon, you started Amazon, you were going in the store, you went through the mentorship, whatever. I mean, in terms of like juggling it alongside a 9 to 5, how feasible did you find it? Because obviously there are other side hustles that you could have gone down with. Obviously, I know you said you had a bit of experience with Amazon, but why wasn't it drop shipping? Why wasn't it app trading? Why wasn't it some other service,
It
SMMA or something?
was. It was. So I tried out quite a few different side hustles before I eventually landed with Amazon. I've always been one of the people that's quite entrepreneurial. I've enjoyed
Yeah,
the whole side of trying to learn because I started at the age of 20. I got my first sales job. So my background is sales for best part of 7 years. Since I was 19, I started in sales. I'm now 27. Um, and when I got into sales, I was earning quite a good wage for my age, arguably. 19, I was earning 2.5 grand after tax. And I thought, wow, this is great. But then I sat down and worked out the numbers and realized actually, if I'm paying rent and a mortgage or council tax and what have you, all these other bills, I'm left with this much. So I had to look outside the box. And so I did try drop shipping. I did try Forex and I lost a bit of money.
yeah,
And
Forex is
that's a
legendary.
completely separate
Yeah,
thing that we'll leave maybe for another cup of tea and a whiskey another time. But still, so there's loads of different things that I went to. And when I realized how simple the business model was with Amazon, I'm finding branded goods. For example, I do wholesale with a tiny bit of retail arbitrage and online arbitrage. So I'm finding branded goods. I'm not really spending that much on advertising. You can spend money for Amazon wholesale and advertising, and occasionally nowadays I do, but I start doing that. I'm utilizing brands like L'Oreal, Nivea, um, Schwarzkopf, however you say it, all of their external branding and advertising they do, and selling to customers that are already going to the platform to buy. So it just seemed like a no-brainer that people are already going to buy the items from Amazon. So you just be the supplier for it. Does that make sense?
yeah, no, of course. And I mean, I think it was one of the things that drew me towards it as well. Was obviously you saw a lot of people doing it well online, and I think when you start to understand that the wholesale model is something that that there's a bit more certainty with it. Is usually how I explain it
100%.
to people. Obviously, with building an e-commerce brand through dropshipping, potentially better margins, but you don't have a sales history that you can look at. You don't have all of this. There's data that you can look at, search trends and stuff, but like there's not as much certainty as looking at a listing that's been on there, an established brand, not having to spend money on ads, that you can sort of take and go and build a business with, right? So it's definitely one of those things that's pretty useful, and you can do it in sort of outside of a 9 to 5, right? I think that's one of the most important things with this side hustle in particular is that Amazon FBA can very well complement alongside a full-time job. And I don't know about you how long it sort of took you to get to a point where you went full-time, but you're saying you're on sort of 2.5 grand a month at that point. If you go on and sort of Amazon FBA, you can get to a point where you're earning a grand profit a month quite quickly, to be honest. Like that's like one or two products, to be honest, in some
Yeah.
instances, where you're earning half of your income with I'm not gonna say no effort, but very little effort once you found a product. So I do think it suits around that 9 to 5 very, very well, and slots in. So obviously you tried a bunch of other side hustles. You then went on to Amazon FBA. You started to scale an Amazon FBA business. What was the point that allowed you, do you think, to go like full time on Amazon FBA? Like what was the reason that allowed you to do that? Because I think a lot of people will think, when am I ready to go full time on Amazon? Like what was when did that click for you? What was the light bulb that allowed you to go and do that? Was it a certain
So
milestone? Was it a certain sales figure a month? Like what was the?
so for me, I'm a little bit different. So for me, I was at a stage where I'm one of those people that's always kind of taken risks. And when I got a proof of concept, so before I went full time with Amazon, I was working in insurance as a team leader. So I was selling for, I won't mention their name, but quite a large insurance company selling homebound insurance. And I was on the phones doing stuff for them, and I was sat in my, because I was working from home, it was post COVID, and I was sat on the phones talking to customers and bagging things up in polybags, right? And I was doing that, and and while I was on my lunch breaks, I was calling a wholesaler, and I'd make myself a lead sheet that I was going through and calling people and trying to get accounts open. And after work, before gym, I was going through price lists, and it was just constant. And I got to a point where I hit my first £1,500 profit in the month, which is quite small time when you consider it with other people that are on the platform. But for me, I was like, wow, that's basically 2/3 of what I'm earning now, and I'm only spending maybe about a third of my day doing this. If I was to give it 100%, how far could I take it? And so for me, when I hit that first 1,500 quid, I was like, okay, cool, that's it, right, let's give it a go. And so I just called up my work, and I made some BS excuse, and
Drop the mic and leave.
literally I made up some BS excuse, and just decided that that was it. And they tried to get me to stay on reduced hours, and I was just like, nope, that's it. And once I've committed, I've committed. And when you put yourself in that position, and this is something that I will say to people, is if you see proof of concept and you believe in yourself, then trust yourself. Because I've now been in a situation, and I'm very blessed, and I thank the universe every single day for it. I haven't had a job, a traditional 9 to 5, since March of 22. So
Yeah,
over
coming to
over
2 years pretty much, right? I mean, significant amount of time,
I
and
haven't had a
the amount of freedom that that gives you, right, is unmatched. I know we caught up a while ago about your journey and stuff, and obviously that was before you hit VAT registration. We worked through that. So obviously VAT registration is a huge milestone, I think, for any Amazon business.
Mhm.
In my opinion, you don't become a proper Amazon seller until you've gone past that point. Just because the amount, like honestly, I hit that registration and my business literally like blew up overnight. I went from doing like 4 or 5 grand profit a month to barely doing one, just purely because at that point, I had obviously had the VAT reclaim with Amazon, which to people that are listening, obviously Amazon will initially charge you a tax. I paid that for ages, and then you can sort of take that off, have it 0%, and then reclaim the amount. So I was on 0% tax for so long with Amazon until I hit the 85K threshold, and then all of a sudden you're paying this extra 20% in tax, right? And you're like, well, shit, my products were like 30% ROI or 40% ROI with a profit margin of 10, 15. Like those products are just wiped out. So I got to a
Mhm.
point where I hit that registration and literally my business like kind of plummeted overnight. To the point where now my Amazon business, look, I'm not trying to actively scale mine. It sits just under the VAT threshold and does me sort of 1 to 2K profit a month, which allows me to, invest into Mentor Me because that's my goal. But that is one of the trickier things that happens, I think, for Amazon sellers. How did you personally get on with that? What were some of the learnings that you came out with from that people that are about to hit that or even thinking about starting an Amazon business? Because 85K sales, I think it sounds like an extraordinary amount of money because it is in terms of revenue,
Yeah.
but that's not something that we as Amazon sellers see because Amazon take half of that through fees usually.
So with 85K, if you're working at around about sort of usually on Amazon pre-VAT, you should be looking at about a 15 to 20% margin. So realistically, you should have around about 10 to 15K in the bank minimum to be working with for stock. But in terms of if you're about to hit VAT, it really it impacts you in three ways really. Firstly, a lot of your products, as I found and as you found, are immediately wiped out.
Yeah.
So those little tiddlers that you're looking at, suddenly a product that's selling for 7.99, you are now not going to realistically be able to sell regardless of what you buy it for. So those kind of things, those cheaper items, even if they're high velocity, realistically are not worth your time. So a lot of the products that you'll be selling, if they are cheap, will now be off the radar. You'll then have to source in a different way. So, for example, you're now looking for slightly more expensive products, or you're looking for products that have minimum margin 17 to 20% when you're starting, not slightly more. You're negotiating with brands a little bit better on price, and also you're trying to do little tactics to improve your margin, i.e., you can source and stock things like food, which have a 5% VAT certain food, 5% VAT, and some teas and things 0%. So you can look for different items that aren't 20% VAT to try and push the ROIs and the margins up slightly, which is what I've done in order to sort of overcome that a little bit. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I think it's like you kind of just have to get to a point where you're finding better products, right? I mean, I think when you're starting out, so desperate to get sales that you will take those 20% ROIs, those 30% ROIs, like post tax, like with the 0% tax. And I actually think my advice to people that would be starting out is actually do it with the tax up to 85k, because then your product's already there, and you can actually get a reclaim on that VAT. So by the end of it, so you might as well have that money stored there, sitting with Amazon, and then claim it back at the end. Like, why not? And then you've got a nice cash injection. You already know that these products are going to work well post VAT, and so it doesn't really become a challenge that way. But obviously, it means you grow slower because you can't jump on every single opportunity that you find. So I think that's definitely like one of the things that most people should be looking to do when it comes to dealing with that and dealing with Amazon. I guess like one of the last few questions that we'll go over around sort of Amazon, I guess, in terms of people starting Amazon, where do you think people should be going? Should they go straight for a sole trader? Should they be setting up as individuals? Should they be going for a limited company straight away? What is your view in terms of the way people that should be starting?
So it's a good question, and I get that question quite a lot when it comes to my own students, right? Um, so my answer to them is usually this: it entirely depends what business model you are going to start, right? And I say that for this particular reason. If you go down the sole trader route, you get a big benefit because for anyone who doesn't know, when you go sole trader, you can hit 85k in revenue, and then before you register for VAT, you register your limited business, and then you can hit another 85k and then register for VAT. So the big benefit is you get basically 170k's worth of revenue before you have to pay any VAT to the government. Big, massive benefit. You'll be looking at a hell of a lot more capital for your business. However, it's a double-edged sword, because then when you're trying to approach wholesalers, if you go down the wholesale route, you will struggle to get accounts. It's the bottom line. They're expecting you to be set up in a certain way. They're business to business. You're going to struggle. On the other side of it, if you're only looking to do retail arbitrage or online arbitrage and things like that, and you're dealing with retailers, they don't care. You can go for sole trader and then do both. But if you're trying to go down the wholesale route, and that's what you want to do, then you can try with the challenge of going sole trader. I did that when I started. The game was a little bit different when I started 3-ish years ago, but you can do it. It is possible. But I will tell you that I did encounter a hell of a lot of issues when I tried to approach people. Um, but at the same time, if you go limited, you're going to have a little bit of an
Yeah,
easier journey to get accounts open.
I went through the same thing, right? I started as a sole trader. I think I'd done 15k in sales before I changed into limited. I think one of the questions that people need to ask themselves when they start an Amazon business is, are you trying to do this as an actual business to escape your job? Because then if that is the case, just go straight to a limited company, because then you can, you're building something sustainable. But try it first, see how you get on. Don't jump straight into a limited company if you're somebody that's quite quickly to start and then give up and move on to something else, because then you're left with a limited company that needs to be filed. Obviously, you can shut down the company, but you've got all these new accountant fees that you're gonna have to deal with, right? So sole trade for £1,000 in sales, because you can get that for free, right? Individual is £1,000, I think it is. Do that, and then if you are going to be somebody that is actually quite keen on growing it, you should definitely go to a limited company, I think. So last question, because obviously we said we want to keep these short. I know we could be talking about this for ages. If you
Good.
were to lose like everything today in your Amazon business, but you had the knowledge, what would be how would you rebuild the Amazon business today? Like if your Amazon business went away, or the cash that you built up went away, but you still had the knowledge that you have now, what would be the route that you went to build that Amazon business, or rebuild it, I should say?
So the first thing I would be doing is trying to save up money current 9 to 5, and I'd try and get to around about 1.5, 2,000, maybe 3k worth of capital personally. Then once I've got that, I'd look to approach different wholesalers, and I'd specifically go down the wholesale route because that's the business model that's been my for 3 odd years, with a little bit of RA and OA sprinkled in, online and retail arb. But I'd go down that route and I'd be approaching big brands, going directly to those brands, not going to the small, minion wholesalers that you see down Pelican Wholesale and MX Wholesale and all those fantastic people you see on the first page of Google. They're fantastic ones. They're fantastic. Okay, they are brilliant. But yeah, I wouldn't be going there. I'd be going directly to the brand, opening accounts with the brand, and leveraging relationships as much as possible to then find products to sell on Amazon in bulk and try and build that capital up to a point where I have around about 10k, 15k worth of capital, and then look to be launching private label products, or look to be going to these brands that I've built relationship with over that period of time and trying to go for the jugular and get exclusivity, be the only person that sells on those particular listings. And that's how I'd get my my capital back to where it is.
Well, good stuff. I think everyone can hear that then. Like, go and find build up some capital, go and find wholesalers and get started with Amazon. So, Darius, thank you so much for being the first guest on here. It's been fantastic talking to you. Hopefully, everyone listening, you can go on to Zoom into success. It's gonna be a bit it's gonna be a bit punchy, that, isn't it? From a dad joke, I can make those now.
That's it. I love it. Love it, mate.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.